Hello Raza, supporters of the Raza, welcome back. Thank you for another one of these crazy episodes. Alright, today I want to talk about the magic of time for the people of Mesoamerica. Now, before we even try to understand time for the people from Mesoamerica, we have to understand that the time or the perception of time for those people, it is not the same than our perception of time. Our perception of time is very linear. We only think of time in ways that we can use time. Measure days, measure hours, measure minutes, measure when is summer going to come, when is winter going to come, when is the Super Bowl, when is New Year's, and so on and so forth. For the people from Mesoamerica, this was not the case. For them, time, it was magical. It was a representation of the drama of their gods. It was a representation of when certain gods are supposed to appear and some are supposed to disappear, in a way. It's very complicated. It also describes the drama of their gods. When are they victorious? When are they defeated? And the stars is a representation of that drama. And as a result, they have to combine multiple ways of measuring time. There's the solar calendar like ours. There's the lunar calendar with the lunar months, which makes it very complicated. There's the Venusian calendar, there's the Martian calendar, and there are other calendars like the Pactun. Now, these can make things very complicated, especially for people that think it's the end of the world, like those people in 2012 when they thought that the world was going to end. Well, in this episode, I am going to try to explain what did that mean, what did the 2012 end of the Maya calendar meant. I will try to explain what were the ritual uses for the calendar, how they used it, which is very complicated and very, very beautiful. And I'll try to also give you a little bit of introduction onto time magic. How do they use time to use magic? Anyway, thank you very much, and let's go. Okay, so let's talk about the end of the world Maya calendar thing. So the date is the Forahau 3 Ankh. Now this particular date, it was supposed to be the end of an age and the beginning of a new age. This type of age was part of the 3-stone ritual. The 3-stone ritual basically created the 3 thrones. Each stone is a throne. And the age basically predicts that this is the age of the rulers. I believe that this prediction did in fact come true. And this is why. Back in those times, in the Mesoamerica times, I'm talking like 2000 BC to 1500 BC to 1500 AD. If you wanted to go on your own with your tribe or with your family, you could do so. It was dangerous because it would be a lot easier for you to have the protection of a ruler of a particular nation. But you can go on your own, create your own city, your own laws, your own language. You can do whatever the heck you want. But according to this prediction of the Maya end, that is no longer possible. This is the age of the rulers. And this is our age. The age where one person cannot be born under the jurisdiction of a country. This particular person has to have a birth certificate of a particular nation, and it cannot go rogue by creating its own nation. And so as a result, I do believe that this prediction came true because this is the age of the rulers. Now let's get to the fun stuff. The Maya calendar. The Maya calendar is supposed to be a reflection of the divine. It's supposed to be a reflection of what happens in the stars. Now the Maya were absolutely obsessed with this particular concept. Now the reason why this was so important was because the Maya believed that the relationship that they had with a particular god was going to determine not only this life but the life after death. This particular reflection or that they had with this particular god, or the relationship that they had with this particular god, could determine whether they were going to have a prosperous life or a very miserable life. Now, this could have been also a little bit combined with some political things, because the rulers were gods, kind of like the Egyptians, but we don't know. But the fact is that the time was of absolute essence to have a relationship with a particular god. Now, for the Maya, all of their calendars were very complex, and they had to be combined. But they had one thing in common, and that one thing in common was the number 20. Now, the number 20 for the Maya was magical. All of this communication that we're having right now, most of our lives, is ruled by Boolean algebra, which is a binary ones and ones thing. Now, that type of mathematics was not really quite understood by us until the end of the 1800s. For the Maya, this was their ABCs. That base 20 Boolean algebra, it was the way they kept their long counts. The way they did mathematics, the way they kept time for long distances, for long periods. And that number 20 was not only useful for the base number that it was, but it was also very useful because that was the way in which they were able to have a connection with their divine, because each one of those numbers represented a particular age, time, kind of God opening. It's kind of hard to explain. So let me explain. For example, the number 1, it's supposed to be the little dragon. Now, the little dragon it belongs to a quadrant. In the last episode, I spoke about the quadrants in the center of the universe. According to the Aztec, the Maya, and other Mesoamerican civilizations, these quadrants are of extreme importance because nothing is out of those quadrants. Either it belongs to the east or the west or the north or the south or the center, and therefore they were able to ascertain their nature based on their quadrant and where did they land. And this is why most of the pyramids in Mexico, they have 4 sides. And so this little dragon lands on the quadrant of the east. What does that mean? It means that a particular person or a particular event or a particular magical ritual that was to be done on this particular day, that little dragon basically represented the unconscious or the hidden. And since it is in the east, it means it can come to light. And so therefore, a person that is born in this particular date, it means that is coming from darkness, is coming from a place that they did not expect, but he or she will reveal something that they did not expect. And so therefore, if someone's trying to do a certain type of magical ritual to try to, let's say, find something, or to try to come up with something, this will be a good time to do it, because something that has been lost, it has been hidden, and so therefore it is under the water, hence the little dragon, the little lizard. It's under the water, so therefore it's hidden, it's not able to be revealed, but it can be revealed under the quadrant of the east. And then things get a little bit more complicated. The dates, for example, for the 260 days, the 20 number days will combine with the 13 number days. And these combinations also create further complications within the calendar. Maybe not complications, maybe just assignments. When, let's say, the little lizard or the little dragon gets mixed with the 1 or the 2 and the 3, the gods corresponding to the 1 and the 2 and the 3 will mix with the little dragon or the little lizard, therefore enhancing its meaning. For example, in this image, we have the birth of a noble woman named Winakaab. This particular woman, she had to be a noble woman, or in fact, she's probably just a baby, a girl. We can see that the calendar has a quadrant where this particular girl was born under the rulership of this particular time. Then the following squares describe the long count. Most nobles that had a long count assignation, usually peasants didn't. because they were supposed to live forever. And then the following squares are the lunar phase calendar. Now this takes also a large part of the stela, and then that little tiny square at the bottom, it is a solar calendar date. And so what does this all mean? This particular stela, it was used during the ceremony of the birth of this particular girl or noble woman. And as a result, this was part of a magical ceremony to bless her, to give her her place in the universe under the rulership of the long count gods, the lunar gods, the solar gods, and possibly other types of gods. And so therefore the calendar was used in ceremonies or magical rituals that gave her blessings for all these multiple gods under which she was born under. And in fact, some Native American names, like for example, I don't know, running bull, for example. The running bull is not necessarily because that particular Native American was born when there was a running bull. It just basically meant that there was probably the date of the bull, and the date was of running. And so it was not very uncommon to have certain Native Americans, either here from the north in North America or in Latin America, to have names like that, where they were born on a particular date and then it mixed with another date, and that's how they were named. In this particular stela, the lady is also named by those particular gods under which rulership she was born under. But these dates were not stationary. They had a drama to themselves. For example, in Chichen Itza, we can see I think they call it the building of Caracol. I don't know what to translate, kind of like a snail or a shell. And so this particular building is to track the movements of Venus and a little bit of the moon. But the reason why it tracks the movements of Venus is because they make patterns in the sky. And the person observing the patterns was able to note them down. And these patterns were useful because it told them about the drama of this particular god. And in fact, they depicted those images in their papyri and also in stelas up on the walls. And it told them whether the god was being victorious in this particular time, or was it being defeated, or was it being merciful, based on the way in which the star made certain movements. It was depicted to have its particular stage. And this combined with other gods, and it also combined with the combination of whether the sun was going to rise. For example, Venus is either the morning star or the evening star, and therefore when the sun comes in, the drama of Venus disappears because the sun just kind of takes over. Or the evening star, it just comes down, and then there is a particular constellation that takes over, and that creates a drama that the people from Mesoamerica noted down into their books. So it wasn't like a made-up drama. It was a story that was being told by the stars. Now let's talk a little bit about magic. This particular date in which a particular work was to be done, it required three things. Number one, it required incense, and it required a working tool. Let's say it can be either a dagger, or it can be a javelin, or it can be a stick. It can be multiple things, and this particular tool had to be elaborated for this particular god and under which they were going to work under. So therefore they have multiple tools to work with multiple gods. And of course an offering. In this picture, for example, there is the sacrifice of a birth, and this was not uncommon. We still eat chickens today, or we eat, some people still in Mesoamerica, they eat little tiny birds. I forgot what they're called in English. But these birds were sacrificed and then they may be eaten or just burned. And in fact, this was not unusual for people around that time. In the Bible, we have multiple sacrifices. And so therefore, the way in which they had to time their rituals and their sacrifices or their offerings, it was through the use of time. That's how they were able to have a connection with a particular god, or even sometimes summon familiars. Anyway, I hope this episode has not been a little too complicated. I know time is very complicated. This can certainly turn into a class on its own, because it's just there are so many symbols, there are so many signs, so many permutations, so many ways to derive them, and also the magical rituals that could have been performed or are still performed in certain areas. And thank you very much for watching, and have a great one. Bye-bye.